Okay, as you can see, a little bit of different energy today because my co-host, the wonderful Sarah, is not here. She is having a girls' weekend. Great, a lot of fun. But we did not schedule time to do the podcast before she left. So it's a solo episode. This could be a disaster, but it might not be a disaster. There may be, I give it a 7% chance that it's not a disaster. Because I can talk. I'll tell you that right now. I can talk. It's an empty room. I'm here by myself. I'm basically talking into the air right now. But I used to stream on Twitch to no audience. That's not entirely true. We had a small audience, and I love you guys. If you are watching this podcast, those were some of the best times of my life. I was deeply depressed. I was an alcoholic, but still very, very fun being on Twitch with you fine folks. Regardless, as you can see, we're going to get into a couple tangents here. We're going to try and answer a couple fitness questions. I mean, we're going to do our best, but it usually doesn't shake out that way. So right off the bat, I copy and pasted, like 15 icebreaker things that I tried not to read because I figured that was a good way to get us loose, get us in the flow of things, because, I just don't want to jump into the fitness stuff. All I talk about is fitness. And while I love fitness, and I love powerlifting, and I love just strength training, man. Oh, man, let me tell you. The passion's been reignited. We're going to talk about that a little bit later. But I do love fitness. But I want this podcast to be a bridge between fitness content and, your everyday life. Getting to know me, getting to know Sarah a little bit better when she's here. I've left the microphone here because I wanted to. And it's picking up a lot of my audio, so that's going to be fun for me to edit. Maybe I'll turn it that way so that it, but I felt like we needed to keep it here just in memory. It means she's not dead. So maybe in memoriam is not the right term, but just as a tribute to her, because she really does keep this podcast on. And you're going to notice she keeps me on the straight and narrow. Enough of the waffling. Let's get to it. Okay, so the first one's what's your favorite useless fact? I don't know. I mean, what are any facts useless? I don't know. I don't have one. Do any of you guys have a favorite useless fact? I guess like the size of an elephant is like 17,000 pounds. That's kind of cool. Is it useless? I mean, not if you're standing in front of an elephant and they're coming right at you. That's dangerous. It's good to know in that moment before you get trampled that 1,700 pounds. Actually, I think it's 17. Did I say 1,700 or 17,000? 17,000 pounds. Think about that for a second. That's an animal. That is a living creature moving and acting in life, carrying around 17,000 pounds. That's insane. So I guess that would be my favorite useless fact because it really doesn't have a great, you're not going to hobnob with society and being like, well, if we could harness the power of elephants, we could get the economy back on track. I mean, anyway, what's something you're kind of snobby about? I think it's probably water. Yeah, I am a water snob because, well, I'm getting better about this, but when I was growing up, didn't drink out of the tap. I know people just really hate it when I say that. They're like, how could you? Now with all the environmentalism aspects to it as well, it's like, well, what are you doing drinking out of plastic bottles? Sue me, dude. If my one consumption of plastic bottles could save the world, I think I'd probably still drink out of plastic bottles. I don't like the taste of tap water. I think there's some people that are with me on that. And then you'll say, okay, so you drink the bottled water instead. Yes, but again, we're going to go one level deeper into the snobbery. I only drink specific kinds of tap water. So if you'll see right here, we've got my jug, and my jug is purified water. That's all I'm drinking. I'm not drinking spring water. It's got fish pee in it. Don't let them lie to you. That's what's in there. I don't love the distilled water. I'll drink it, but I like the purified water. I couldn't tell you why. Also, some brands taste like soap. So if you get, let's see, I haven't had these brands in a while, but if you get Dasani, I believe it is, it's got a soapy taste to it. Not a fan. When I'm out, if I don't have my trusty jug, if I don't have my purified Publix water, I am going for Smart Water, probably number one. I like the big bottles. That's what it is. I drink a lot of water. I like the big bottles. maybe Aquafina, but that's just in a pinch, man. It's fine. It's not the best thing in the world. And then we're getting really deep in the weeds. Like if I'm dehydrated and dying, there was a water in Florida called Zephyr Hills. You want to talk about just the absolute worst tasting water you've ever had in your life. When I tell you, like, I would rather die in a desert than drink Zephyr Hills, not entirely true, but pretty true. Like I'd be like 3-4 days into the thirst before I'm like, okay, give me pop the cap on the Zephyr Hills. It's time. It was terrible. If you're from Florida and you've had Zephyr Hills, I don't know, maybe is Zephyr Hills national? I don't think so. I don't see it around here. If you've had Zephyr Hills, please tell me about it in the comments. Fight me. But yeah, that's what I'm snobby about. How do I feel about clowns is the next one. Take them or leave them. I've never really understood this fear of clowns. I mean, John Wayne Gacy, that would scare anybody, but that's more so a fear of the human condition, is it not? Because just because he dressed like a clown, had he dressed like a pilot and murdered all those dudes, will we be afraid of pilots? I don't think so. I think that's, we have ascribed the fear of clowns to John Wayne Gacy, but in actuality, that's just a fear of humanity, man. We're all, we're all fallen. We're all fallen. And just because he dressed like a clown and murdered those kids does not make him any worse, or I don't know. It is a scary clown. I'm trying to think. There's there's clown media that's scary, but Bozo the clown is not going to scare you. Like if it's a clown that's being forced into a horror aspect of clownship, sure, scary. But anything, like I said, you could make a garden gnome. They've turned that into a horror movie. Chucky doll, like that's a baby doll, but it's also a murder. So I think it's more so the context in which the clown is seen. You remember that time? Man, this feels like ages ago, 2016, 2017, when everybody was dressing up as clowns and walking around neighborhoods with knives and stuff, getting run over by cars. We're an interesting people, humanity in general is just, everybody's just trying to find their place in the world, I guess. And some people thought their place was going to be dressing up like a clown and scaring people. But then people got run over. So play stupid games, win stupid prizes, I guess. If you don't want to get run over, don't dress up like a clown. Take them or leave them with clowns. Okay, what's my favorite meme or viral video? Impossible to choose. There's just too many. There's some great vines. I love the vine of the girl, the Spanish girl drops the gum out of her mouth. And she, ay, mi chicle. I quote that probably 15 times a day, and I'm not exaggerating. Like when I do something that causes minor inconvenience, I don't say, oh no. I say, ay, mi chicle. Like seriously, I wish Sarah was here to vouch for me on that one because that's legitimate. That's a great one. I really like the vine where the guy drops ice on the floor and he steps on it and his sock is wet and he has the fake gun. That's funny. There's just too many to number. There's so many. I mean, I don't know. Those are probably my top two. I'm trying to think of just like static memes. I mean, born to poop, forced to wipe. Like, okay, this is why we need Sarah. Honestly, I'm going places with this. There's just a lot of good memes. I'll say that. But I think my top favorite, probably of all time, is the Spanish girl who drops the gum out of her mouth. Okay. Let's see. What is the smelliest food to cook in the office microwave? I don't go into the office. Everybody says fish, and I get that. Fish smells rancid, dude. And also tastes rancid. I'm not a big fish guy. I grew up on an island. Fish was a major part of our culture growing up. I just never really got it. I'll eat cod. I was talking to my mom last night about cod. It's great. It's got great protein to bring the fitness aspect back to this fitness podcast. It's a really good calorie to protein ratio. I think the cod that we have, Alaskan cod, is 140 calories for like 33 grams of protein, maybe 150 calories, but that's insane. You're not going to find a ratio better than that. So I got to give mad props to the fish for allowing me to get this sweet bod. But if I'm talking in general, I'm not choosing fish. You know what I mean? You go to the restaurant, you sit down, there's like 3 different things on the menu I'm picking before I get to fish. You feel me? I don't know if maybe I'm incorrect in that, but I feel like most people, especially in America, I mean, we're a beef country, ladies and gentlemen. We are a beef people, for better or worse. I love it. I'm a big beef guy. Cows are cute, yes, but they taste better. So what are you willing to put up with? It's not like you're looking at the cow when you're eating it. I don't know. All of these opinions do not reflect on my wife, obviously. This is all me. I probably won't put this podcast up if I'm being completely honest with you. This is a nightmare. What I don't even remember what the question was. What's the smelliest food to cook in the microwave? Probably fish, Brussels sprouts, possibly sauerkraut. Do you cook sauerkraut in the microwave? I don't know. I'm not a chef. Next one. What activity helps you relieve stress? What activity helps me relieve stress? The gym. But I will say that the style of training that I do, powerlifting style training, also accumulates stress. Like I woke up this morning and just felt beat because I'm training. You know, I've got 3 weeks of training where I'm peaking to a test, RPE 9, about where my maxes are for my competition lift. So I'm accumulating a lot of fatigue, accumulating a lot of stress. But I still think mentally. Now, what's funny, and I'll talk about this for a little bit because this also ties into like your general life. So here's a couple tips for you. The body doesn't differentiate between mental and physical stress. It's all the same chemical combination. Cortisol is being spiked. That's causing a stress response, regardless of physical stress versus mental stress. Now, maybe there's a little tweaks here and there, but most of, so when you think about going to the gym for stress relief, if the activity that you're doing in the gym, if you're allowing it to be mentally stressful, say you are really chasing a personal best on a lift and you've been missing it and missing it and missing it, that's also accumulating stress, not just physically, but mentally. And the body is taking that all as the same type of thing. So you got to be pretty careful about that. Another one that I really like to relieve stress is a sauna. Man, which is crazy because I hate the heat, but I guess I like extreme heat. I like what it does for me when I get out. You know what I mean? It's like the same concept as like a cold shower. When you're in there, there's nothing you want more than to get out of it. But once you do get out, it's like you're being born into a new world. Especially like for me, there's like a 10, 15 minute window after I take a warm shower where I'm still sweating. And that's just the worst feeling in the world. I've got my eczema lotion on. I feel like a slug. But if you take a cold shower and then you get out, your body temperature's down a little bit more and you're not as hot as you were. I don't even remember what we're supposed to be talking about. Stress relief. Okay, yeah. So gym, sauna, what else? I like watching slice of life anime that has no stakes. I think you could say that for anything, like The Bachelor or any of these like fluff television shows that you don't have to think about or contemplate your own existence or mortality. I think those are very fantastic when it comes to relieving stress, turn your brain off a little bit. Any type of media that is not art. I mean, I guess it's still some type of art, but in my mind, art is going to make you think and have a visceral reaction. The Bachelor is not going to do that unless you take it very seriously. So there you go. I don't know. Everybody's different. Those are my stress relievers. If you got some that you do to relieve stress, leave them in the comments below. Please save this podcast from obscurity. What is the most awkward thing that has ever happened to you during an interview? I mean, I've only had... My career path has been very unorthodox, I guess is a good way to put it. I've only had 2 interviews because when I was working in film, I didn't really have to interview for anything. It was just kind of word of mouth, and they needed a lot of people. I worked in the indie film stuff, so it was like, hey, do you have a pulse? Like, do you have a pulse and do you know what a camera is? Please come work on this movie for us. So there wasn't a rigorous interview process. That was more word of mouth. I interviewed for an internship at a law office. And to be honest with you, that was like 2014. I do not remember the interview process. It went well. I got the job 2 summers in a row, not to brag. I sat in a law library and fixed I don't know. Maybe it was the Caymanian Constitution. I don't think they have a constitution. Whatever the code of laws was, I just I would reorder it in the binder. It was not fun. I did a couple other things though, but that was the job that made me realize that no, I did not want to be a lawyer for the rest of my life. And then I had an interview for my personal training job. But again, these big corporate gyms they just want warm bodies. It's like, I'm telling you right now, if you have a passion for coaching people, get started at a big box gym, at least for like a year, because you will get the job. I promise you. You like, unless you're a felon. And even then, everybody needs a second chance. But go interview, it's a great experience. For me, it made me really realize who I wanted to coach and kind of helped me hone down the audience that I wanted to try and target with my own business, which was very nice. But I also was able, you kill two birds with one stone. Or here's the thing, here's a tangent. I saw this tweet. This is another good meme of non-speciest language from PETA. Don't get me started. But they want us to say, instead of kill two birds with one stone, feed two birds with one scone. That's catching on like wildfire. I don't know. That's a really funny tweet, just to go back to the meme thing. What in the world was I talking about? LA Fitness, which is where I work, or just in general, like any of these big corporate gyms, right? The experience that you can get from them is pretty invaluable because you're met with a mass of humanity. You're going to get everybody on the spectrum of fitness, most likely, depending on the area in which you live. I live in a pretty big city, so I've gotten, I've trained people from the age of 14 to 87, I think the guy was. And just, that's a great experience. Now, it can grate on you after a while. It does, like right now, I'm feeling a little bit like, I want to move more towards my personal business, less towards the corporate lifestyle of the gym. But, there's a little insight into my history. Again, I do not remember what I was talking about. Oh, the interview. Yeah, I don't think that interview was very awkward. My first boss at LA Fitness was great. All my bosses have been really, really good. But the guy that gave me the first job, he was really nice guy, talked me through the process. Very, very simple. I don't think anything awkward happened there. I'm not going to toot my own horn here, folks, but I can talk. I'm a pretty good talker. I don't know if you've realized 18 minutes in to a podcast where I'm literally just talking to myself, I can come up with some stuff to keep the conversation flowing. Moving on here. Man, there's a lot of these. I don't know. I guess we're going to do all of them. Let's see. What's the best animal sound you can make? Okay, well, we're not going to do that one. I don't think I can do any animal sounds. Maybe if I have children, I will practice my animal sounds. Let's see. Oh my God, my computer's breaking. I can be hot, I can be cold, I can run, and I can be still. I can be hard. This is a riddle. I can be hard and I can be soft. What am I? Oh, well, it doesn't have the answer. Oh, I can be hot, I can be cold, I can run, I can be still, I can be water. Hot water, cold water, frozen, still. It's water. If it's not water, don't tell me. I am a ball. Why are we now getting into riddles? I'm a ball that can be rolled, but never bounced or thrown. What am I? I'm a ball that can be rolled, really, but never bounced or thrown. Folks, I don't know why we've got a bunch of riddles here. If you know this one, let me read it to you again. I'm a ball that can be thrown, but never bounce. No, sorry. I am a ball that can be rolled, but never bounced or thrown. What am I? An eyeball. Yes? Gotta be. What other balls can you not bounce? It's gotta be. Gotta be an eyeball. Okay, moving on. What band would you be embarrassed to admit you listen to? This does not compute for me. When I tell you that my musical taste is quite possibly the worst thing on this earth, meaning that I just don't have shame about what I listen to. I couldn't. The funny thing is, like, I can be critical about my movie taste. I think because I was in the industry, quote unquote, the industry. I made movies and, learned about the process of making movies. I can be more critical. I don't have any idea about the music process. Like, of course I played guitar, but I could play four chords and like kind of sing. So I don't have the same level of critical thinking that I do with music that I do with movies. So I listen to everything, and literally I listen to it. If it makes me interested, it's good. So stuff that people think is bad or like sonically unpleasant to listen to, I'm like, no, I'm cool with it. Like, when I'm writing, I listen to like crazy jungle and breakcore and drum and bass, like mechanical music that I think a lot of people would be very much turned off. Like it just, for some reason, I love it and it really helps me focus. But then again, you can go to any side of the spectrum. I love soft boy indie music, crying on their guitar. You know, I love Japanese metal. Like I'll just listen to anything. I really like Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan. If you don't know him, you should go check him out. He's like a Pakistani, I don't think he's still alive. He's probably dead now. He was a Pakistani like religious singer, and I have no idea what he's singing about, but let me tell you, that dude can sing. I just like a lot of stuff. I think, you know, both my parents listen to a lot of different kinds of music. My dad is notorious for not listening to the words of any song. This man will just listen to the beat or to the music. So he doesn't really care about like lyrical brilliance, and I think that kind of rubbed off on me. I can appreciate a good bar here and there for sure, but at the same time, if it sounds good, if it's got like a groove to it, even if it doesn't, if it's just something interesting, I'm in. So my musical taste is pretty wild. I'm not embarrassed about anything. I mean, I'm trying to think, maybe baby metal, but I'm not embarrassed by that. I listen to a lot of anime soundtracks. Again, you can't get me, dude. I'm almost 30. I'm married. Like, embarrassment is out the window. I wouldn't be doing this if I was easily embarrassed. You know what I mean? This is a hack for you guys. Sorry, I gotta take a little sip of water here. This is some dead air. Man, this podcast is rip roaring. Okay, so here's a hack. If you are easily embarrassed, what I would say is just start filming yourself. Honestly, like if you go back and you watch some of my early videos, I am horrendous on camera. Now, I was dealing with a couple things in my life. I was deeply depressed. I was working on my alcoholism. So there's issues there, yes. But also my presentation style left something to be desired. So go back and watch some of those, and then go back and watch some of my most recent ones, which, again, not to brag, but a lot better. Because I've learned that at the end of the day, if I'm happy with it, and if I'm continuing to get better with my presentation style, no amount of mean comments or anything like that can really harm me. And you're going to get them. I'm not saying start a YouTube channel and put this stuff out. Just the simple act of sitting down and talking to a camera, if you don't have a human being to talk to. Now, obviously, if you have a human to talk to, you can practice that way. But, you know, a lot of people are isolated these days, and you know, that's a big problem. And I think it's like kind of trying to put the cart before the horse. Like if you're not comfortable talking to people, but you're going out to meet people, you may not have the most success meeting new people because you're not comfortable talking to people. And I think a hack for that is literally just filming yourself, watching it back, and taking a critical eye and thinking like, oh, this is how I come across when I'm talking about this. Like talk about a broad range of subjects and kind of find, you know, where you can kind of groove and feel, you know, I don't know. It might help. It might not. I don't know. What's the most embarrassing moment from your teen years? This is the last one. Thank God. I really didn't realize this list was that long. Embarrassing moment from my teen years. Oh, I have a terrible memory. And again, I don't know if genetically I'm not very predisposed to being embarrassed. My mom is an incredibly confident person. So is my dad. And both of them are very self-aware. My mom more so than my dad but my mom, I don't think she gets embarrassed. Like, it's not to say she doesn't do embarrassing things, because God knows she definitely does. And so do I. But I wonder if it's like a genetic thing where just the propensity for us to get embarrassed is a little bit lower than the rest of the population. Because everybody's always talking about, oh, these you know, these memes about like trying to go to sleep and your brain being like, you remember that weird thing you did in 4th grade? It's like, no. First of all, no, I don't remember it. And no, it didn't register for me that it was weird. I don't know. I guess one thing that I think about, and I'm very proud of this now, but I do remember in the moment feeling a little bit embarrassed about it. I have always had really curly hair, if you can tell, you know, and I've found a hairstyle that I really like now that really plays into the curls. But when I was younger, I'm still very emo today in terms of like the music that I listen to and stuff, but I was very emo in high school. I loved emo music, screamo. I loved the scene. I wanted to be like a scene kid with the flat brim hats and the swoop and all that. This is early 2012, you know, 2011, 2012, this was peak of scene emo, right? And my hair would just grow out. And I had a friend, my best friend, he had the perfect hair for the emo hair. So he had it, he was rocking it, and I was self-conscious about it. So yeah, I guess I was a little bit embarrassed. So what I did was I got a straightener and I straightened it, but it didn't work. Like I tried to straighten it down over the eye, but it just like jutted out. So I would straighten it and it would just, so I had to then put like a hat on to push it down. And I went to a party and I just remember walking into the party thinking, yes, I have finally arrived. I was wearing tight jeans. I had the whole thing. And just about 10 minutes in being like, I'm uncomfortable. I don't like anything about this. So I guess personally, I was embarrassed for not how other people were perceiving me, because I think I was pulling the look off, but I realized like I would rather be comfortable clothing wise and like hairstyle wise and not have to worry about it than do the work to get to that certain point. Does that make sense? Okay. That's 27 minutes of just absolute garbage. You know, I don't know about this one, boys. We really need her back. I'll tell you that right now. Next week we'll be back to normal. I promise you. We will film a podcast the way we're supposed to. I got a couple fitness questions. Thank God. Let's get back on track. First of all, actually, before we get to that, I want to talk a little bit about my training and how I am mentally preparing myself for the heavier sessions. But before that, we get a little sip of water. Okay. I'm not cutting those out, by the way. You're just going to have to sit and listen to me slurp down water. So if you're not a fan of mouth sounds, this might not be the podcast for you. So like I alluded to earlier, I am in a period of training where the intensity is very high, meaning the weight on the bar is high. My approach is, we're doing reps, 1 to 3 reps. We're trying to hit some pretty heavy numbers. That's accumulating a lot of fatigue, yes, but it also requires you to go to a specific place mentally. So something that I have been experimenting with, and I got this from Instagram, a couple of people. I think Joe Sullivan is one of these people who talks about this a lot. He's a pretty good Instagram follow if you're looking for like the cerebral side of powerlifting. He's also one of the strongest people on the earth, so that helps. But he was talking about utilizing tools to modify and manipulate your level of arousal. Now, I'm talking about central nervous system and mental arousal here, not sexual arousal. Obviously, that's not where you want to be in the gym. I mean, some people clearly are, but that's a topic for a different podcast. I'm talking about getting yourself to a mental place where you are able to perform the lift with controlled aggression. And this may go over some of you guys' heads because maybe you're not a power lifter, or maybe you're not an Olympic weightlifter, or you don't have to perform a specific physical skill that requires a level of mental arousal as well. But for my powerlifters and for people who have tried to do something like this, you'll realize that without proper mental arousal, even if this is a weight that you have hit in training before or something that you've hit pretty easily, that weight can feel like an extra 500 pounds, either on your back or in your hands. So I have been working to kind of find my groove in terms of which tools can I use to allow me to get to that place mentally. And 2 that I have found to be really good. First of all, music. Music is incredibly powerful psychologically. So what I do is I have a specific set of songs, I think it's 5 or 6, that I only listen to when I'm going for my heavy set of the day, right? And leading into it. So a typical day for me in the gym, I'll walk in, I'll do my little warm up, and I'm listening to an audiobook, something that is not very arousing, something that I can focus on that kind of takes the boredom out of the warm up, but allows me to still be present. I've been listening to a couple of good ones on behavioral science, which I think is maybe where this focus on arousal is coming from also. But so you listen to that, you do your warm up. I'm doing all my warm up sets all the way up until my peak set. listening to the audiobook. And then after I finish my warm-up set, I'll watch the video back because I like to film my last warm-up to see, I can feel how it feels internally, but I also want to get an objective perspective. And like my old high school football coach always said, the eye in the sky don't lie. So the camera, if you're filming, that's not going to lie to you. That's an objective piece of data that you can use. If you're squatting high and you feel like you're getting to depth, but the video says you're not, you're not. So that's great. So I'll watch the video back. And as I'm watching the video back, that's when I will go to the music, right? That's when I'll start the playlist up. And I've built it to where it grows and grows and crescendos to the point where it's time now to get under the bar or to bench or deadlift or whatever. I'm thinking specifically about squat here because that's usually the one where I need the most juice, artificial juice. Like with a deadlift, it's primal, man. Something about the deadlift just allows you to get to that space a little bit easier, at least for me personally. But with a squat, maybe it's the fear. Maybe it's the fear of like getting crushed by the weight, or just like it's a lift that I have had a lot of technical issues with in the past. So it's something that I really need assistance with as I get ready, regardless. So I listen to the music all the way into the lift, do the lift, and then the minute that I'm out from under the bar, I will stop it. So even if my big work for the day is like 3 sets, I'm still stopping the music in between during my rest periods. And usually for that, I'll just go straight silence or like white noise and do my second trick, which is some deep breathing techniques, right? So I'll focus on one aspect of the squat mentally. I'll keep that in my mind's eye. Maybe it's the descent. Maybe it's driving out of the hole with some power and some velocity. Whatever it is that day that I feel like might be tripping me up, I'll do some box breathing where I'm like 3 seconds in, hold 3 seconds, 3 seconds out, hold 3 seconds, which helps me bring my heart rate back down, but also kind of refocuses me mentally while I'm thinking about that one position in the squat that I want to really nail on the next set. Now, what I will say about all this is you can't do this for very long. Like the mind is not resistant to fatigue. I mean, I'm sure you know that. You've done challenging mental work or you've done challenging physical work. Like if you work in customer service or you work with having to talk to people, when you come home from that day, you are not just physically exhausted, but also mentally exhausted. And I think it's a very similar pathway. I don't have any science. I'm not a science man, but anecdotally from me and from the clients that I coach and talk to, you cannot utilize this level of arousal for a long period of time. So you have to really pick your spots. And I can do it for probably like a sustained like 10, 15 minutes, I think is probably the max that I can do, which is all I need. Now, the trick for me is going to be when I do compete again, finding ways to kind of go through that cycle in a shortened period. So peak for squat, come back down, peak for bench, come back down, peak for deadlift, come back down. That's going to be the tough part. But I know I have the tools now. I have the music playlist. I have the deep breathing. I may add some others. If you use any tools, let me know in the comments because I would love to, pick your brains. Like, I come on here and I talk and we have the podcast and I have all the YouTube videos and stuff, but I want to be very clear. I'm not talking from a expert perspective. Like, yes, I do have expertise in these areas and I study this and this is my life, right? But I'm always looking to learn. And I think a lot of people get this relationship wrong, like either the coach-client relationship or the content creator, content consumer relationship. They get it wrong because they think that they know everything. You can't know it. Like I am one person and there's an audience of, I don't know, 1,000 people that could consume some of this. There's no way that I know everything that broad spectrum of human beings could know. So don't be afraid to leave comments that you may think push back. Now let's do it respectfully, obviously. Don't make fun of my hair, but if you want to, that's fine too. But I want to foster a community where you can grow together. The problem with a lot of strength sports is that they are being marketed to us as being very individual. And yes, at the end of the day, it's you under the bar for sure. But you're really just setting yourself up for failure if you're not trying to cultivate either in person or online a group of people that are also fighting towards a common goal. I just think it's very powerful. So that's something that I have been trying to find and am going to do a better job of next year or towards the end of this year, because I'm, by nature, I'm very individual. I like to be by myself. I like to do things by myself, but I've been realizing more and more the power of a community, especially when you're all chasing. Now, you all have your own individual goals, obviously. Like if I'm training with people that are trying to squat, an all-time world record, that's not my goal. But my goal is to squat an all-time world record for me, right? So we are the same in that we're traveling towards that same distance. The ending point might be different, but we're on the same path. I'm kind of rambling about it, but I think it's very valuable. So that's another tool that you can use for mental arousal, because my goodness, if you're lifting by yourself versus lifting with a crowd versus lifting with a group of people that you trust, the level of mental arousal is different for each of those. So when you're by yourself, utilizing these tools like music, like deep breathing, like smelling salts in a lot of cases, some people use them, they can be very powerful, but you can get that from a community. So don't feel like you have to be isolated to do this sport. Like, don't listen to the Instagram reels about the villain arc and all this. That's garbage. It's so stupid. It's so dumb. Life's too short to be trying to do this by yourself. I mean, any endeavor. Like, find some people that you can trust, that you vibe with, for lack of a better, vibe, here we go. But that you get along with, that and do it. Just work with them. Like, easier said than done. Listen, I'm kind of preaching to myself here because I'm a very isolationist person. I want to feel like I'm by myself. I want to feel the success, the perceived success of doing it by yourself. But let me tell you what I've been learning and what I've been coming to grips with myself. Nobody's doing this by themselves. I mean, maybe one or two people, but the vast majority of people need support. And whether it's mental, emotional, physical, whatever, we're communal animals, dude. We're supposed to be in community with people. So don't let Instagram and TikTok tell you like, oh, you gotta, she broke your heart. Time to be by yourself. Sure. Be sad for a little bit, but be an adult. You gotta move on. You gotta find different people. So those are some tools that I'm using. I wanted to get to one question today. And it's kind of be like I love to do with questions. It's a question that's going to lead us to a jumping off point for a broader answer. But again, a little water break. Thank you so much for watching, folks. Please stick with me. I'm looking out onto the back porch. It's a beautiful day. I'm so happy fall is in the air. I may get to, smoke my pipe a little bit, get a little bit, feel the fall breeze. Who knows? Okay. This question comes from the fitness Reddit. I love it. It's pretty short. If my triceps are my weak point in my pressing movements, should I be training them first, or how should I attack them? Now, there's a couple things we need to break down here. This is a really, this is a one sentence question that's got a lot of meat on the bone. So I'm going to have to lean up to get ready for this. These chairs, by the way, that we have for this podcast are quite possibly the most uncomfortable thing on the face of this earth. But we don't got a massive budget here, folks. We got to use what we have. And that, I bought these off of Amazon. It was like a 4-pack, and man, you get what you pay for. So first of all, I want to always preface any discussion about weak points is usually useless for people in the first 1 to 3, maybe 4, 5 years of training, because your whole body's weak. Like, being so hyper fixated on perceived weak points when you've been training for 6 months is absolutely useless. You are weak in general. Your whole body is weak. So there's no sense in like, oh, I really want to target my weak point here. No, eat and train. First 1 to 3 years of your fitness journey. And then maybe you can start to drill down into some weak points on specific lifts, like it's it's pretty absurd. Sorry, folks. I was hearing some stuff over there that, I had to go check out, but we're back. What was I talking about? Weak points. Yes. So if you're newer to the sport of powerlifting, to bodybuilding, to whatever, like my favorite my favorite thing is these young bodybuilders that would be like, I really need to build up my upper chest. It's like, my guy, you don't have a chest. Like, like what are you talking about? It's not an offense to you. You have not been training long enough to know. So first and foremost, I'll always say that when you think that you have a weak point, ask yourself, am I just overall weak? Am I not technically proficient in the lift? Do I need more time? Which I would say 9 times out of 10, that's going to be your answer. Secondly, let's talk about specific training and programming approaches to solving weak points. So when you do notice that you have a weak point, let's say you're weak like 2 inches off the chest in your bench press, or you're weak coming out of the hole in the squat, or whatever it is, you're using not enough leg drive in a sumo deadlift. There's a number of different ways that you're weak. The question is always, is this a technical problem or is this a strength problem? Because as non-technical as powerlifting is, it's not as technical as Olympic weightlifting, clearly. But there are technical things that you can do to make the lift more efficient that may cover for the weak points you have, or reveal, once you fix your technique, that you don't actually have a weak point. You just had really bad technique, and that was causing some inefficiencies or some transfer of force leakage in your actual lift. So first of all, you want to try and figure that out. Now, how do you do that? Well, film yourself first and foremost. But if you are newer to the sport or not very knowledgeable in what good technique looks like, that's when you need to take advantage of a coaching service of some kind. Also, there are a bunch of people on Instagram and on YouTube that'll do form checks. Calgary Barbell, I'm wearing some of their merch every Friday. They do a live stream where they do form checks, and those dudes know what they're talking about. Bryce was a former world record. He may still hold the world record for deadlifts or whatever. Regardless, this is a strong dude who has coached a ton of people. So he doesn't just know how to get himself strong, but he also knows how to get other people strong, which is a great thing. I do form checks as well. If you want to jump in the Discord, there's a channel for form checks. You can leave your video in there and I'll get back to you. We can do it over DM privately if you don't want to be done in the public square. I'm not going to be mean to you. And again, if your goal is to get better, you have to remove the ego, right? If you think that there's a weak point, don't send the video expecting them to be like, nope, you're perfect. You should expect a critique, or why else are you sending the video? I don't know. Excuse me. I drank, or I had some Frosted Flakes with milk, and I'm not used to having a lot of lactose. I'm not lactose intolerant, but it is causing a little bit of some phlegm buildup. Sorry about that. Well, let's get back to the task at hand. This is how my brain works. This is really, I'm just all over the place. Form and technique. So once you've identified that it isn't a technique issue, let's say with 90% certainty or 80% certainty that your technique is good enough, that there is a specific muscular imbalance. In a powerlifting context, I still think that you should value keeping the main thing. The level of progress that you can make from just really dialing in the squat, the bench, and the deadlift is underrated by a lot of people. Everybody loves to talk about accessory movements, and yes, accessory movements are fantastic and they have their place for sure. But we lean on accessory movements as a crutch a lot of the time, instead of just really, really hammering frequency, volume, intensity in squat, bench, deadlift most of the time. So don't neglect, I like to say, like, if it's a bench press problem, how many times are you benching? 2 times? Try a third. 3 times? Try a fourth. You know what I mean? Bench is usually, you can recover now, some of the heavyweight guys, probably not. So you have to know yourself. You have to know, how you recover. But that's another thing that comes with experience. So again, if you're a first year or a second year person in the sport, don't do this. Just keep training, plug away at something, train hard, train with intensity, and then you can start to kind of weed into, the actual tip of the spear type stuff once you get a little bit further down the road. So, and with squat, it's pretty much the same thing. I would, generally I wouldn't go over 3 times a week, but some people can recover from it. With deadlift, usually you're going to be stuck at once a week, sometimes twice a week, but the deadlift is pretty pretty hard to recover from for a lot of people. But again, you have to do your own research. You have to test your own, like in an off season when you don't have a competition coming up. This is when you throw some things in there. You say, hey, can I get away with another day of deadlifting? Maybe if it's sub max and it's a little bit more technical, and then you see how you recover. And if not, then you strip it away. Nothing's set in stone. So that's what I would say in terms of frequency. And then once you've exhausted all options that way, then there are specific accessories, right? There are ways. Like bodybuilding, there's a bunch of different movements that target specific spots. So if we can say, okay, my upper back is weak in the squat and it's causing me to lose positioning because I'm not creating a sufficient shelf, right? We're talking about, this is very in the weeds type stuff, but then you may want to throw on some more specific rows for your upper back. Let's say your triceps are like this example here. Let's say your triceps are a weak point, which would indicate by you having a tough lockout in the bench. That's usually when the triceps are taking over, that last third of the movement. That's when you can start to say, okay, let me add in some close grip bench. Let me add in some rolling dumbbell extensions. Let me add in some just general dumbbell tricep hypertrophy work. That's when you can start to lean on that stuff. But I really think that starting from the bigger movements and coming down is the best way to go about it. So first of all, asking yourself, one, are my triceps actually weak or am I just weak? Two, could I get away with another bench press day? And maybe a bench press variation. Hey, kill two birds with one stone or feed two birds with one stone. Maybe another bench press day means that you are close grip bench pressing, which is going to target the triceps a little bit more. So there you go. You are targeting a specific weak point while also increasing your frequency. That's the other thing about programming that I think a lot of people get caught up in is like, these things don't have to be done in a vacuum. You can do 2 of these things or 3 of these things at a specific time. You don't have to wait another 6 weeks to add on another flare or another tweak to your program. Like, don't get caught up in it is all I'll say. So that would be my checklist for how to determine if you actually have a weak point and then how to attack that weak point. First of all, let's make it very concise. If you're within 1 to 3 years of starting a fitness journey, specifically powerlifting, you don't have a weak point. You're just weak in general. That's the mindset to take. Once you have determined that you do have a weak point, first of all, figure it out if it's technical or if it is strength. And you do that by engaging the services of a well-qualified coach or someone in your gym who is very experienced in the sport. That works too. It doesn't have to be a coach. It can be, these 10-year veterans that are still chugging along in the sport. They're awesome resources as well. So once you determine that it is not a technique issue, then you really dial into, okay, is it a frequency thing? Is it a volume thing? Do I need to train the specific lift more or maybe in some cases less? Do I need to train with more intensity? Do I need to train with more mental focus? Then, and only then, once you've checked off all of those boxes, do you say, what are the accessory movements, the bodybuilding type movements that I can then add in to build more muscle on my frame, to strengthen the specific spot in the weak chain that I can fix to then increase my specific lift. So that is the checklist that I would do. Holy cow. And with that, wow, we made it. We made it to 50 minutes. This is insane. I did not love doing this by myself, but I will say it went a little bit better than I thought it was going to. Am I going to release this podcast? I don't know. Maybe. Probably. Thank you guys so much for watching. I just want to say, I want to take this time, and I'm going to make a video towards the end of the year talking about it, but this has been one of the better years of my life. Probably the best year so far. And next year is going to be better than that. That's the mentality that I have. But I've really enjoyed making content for you guys this year. I've really had fun doing it. And what's so cool is like sometime in like maybe April or May, the channel wasn't growing as fast as I thought it was going to, or that I had hoped. And I just had to switch my mindset or I was going to stop doing it. And my mindset changed from, I don't care about more people. I care about quality. And there's a lot of you that comment on all the videos that I see constantly that are coming back, that are bringing good discussion to the channel. And I really, really, really appreciate that. That's what really keeps me going and keeps me driving forward, and just the desire to improve the content. So thank you so much for watching all the videos that we put out. We're going to keep doing it, man. I love to do this stuff. Now the podcast, not as much, as we know, a little bit of a meme. But the videos and stuff like that, I really, really enjoy. So I've had a fantastic 2023 so far. We've got a couple more months. We're going to keep putting stuff out there, and then we're going to hit 2024 running. I'm hoping to compete again next year at some point. So we're going to do another prep series, which I had a lot of fun doing. We're going to keep putting content out to get you stronger. So subscribe to the channel, tell people about it. Word of mouth really means a lot. I just cannot express my gratitude enough to you guys for watching and stuff. I hope you like this episode. If you did like it, go ahead and leave a comment down below. Back to your regularly scheduled programming with my beautiful wife. Back with us next week. But until then, I love you. Maybe we'll have another podcast next week. I don't know. See ya.